on my mind, just a memory. Let's rewind. Another year, another century. It's a really strange story, and it seems kind of blurry, but I'll try my best to explain what my memories contain. On my mind, on my mind, let's rewind. Another year, another day, another century. Suddenly everything went wrong, from Italy to Hong Kong. We couldn't see into the future, but hoped that it would come sooner. Something strange, like the world was rearranged. I'd spend my time thinking of the people that I miss and love. You're on my mind. You're on my mind. Let's rewind. Another year, another day, another century.
So, my interpretation of an interior world is that connection between mind, body, and soul. But when thinking about my interior world and how it has developed over the past year, I think about my ongoing process of getting to know myself better. Because over the past year, I picked up this habit of journaling whenever I'm feeling a lot. And of course I got to know myself better from this, because I analyze my emotions and the way I work and the way I think. So that kind of gets me this opportunity to see if my thoughts are rational and whether I'm really just overthinking. And I noticed I became more optimistic because now that I know my thought pattern, I gravitate towards the positive things because I've, naturally let go of the negative.
It was a random day during the Christmas holidays, and my friend wanted to do a small get-together because some of us have come from overseas and we haven't seen each other in a while. So he decided to do a get-together at his house, specifically his roof. And it was really windy that day, and it was really cold that day, so we all had blankets around us. And the sun was setting, but the sky was clear, and it was pink and blue. And we were all in awe of how pretty the sky was that day. It was one of the nicest days during the Christmas holiday, I think. And he brought out this card game. It was in a red box, and it was about getting to know people better. I just remember thinking, what more could I know about them? These are my closest friends, what else is there to know? So we went around in circles reading out the questions. I just realised that so much had happened over the past year that I didn't know of, and it was eye-opening. Because to me, I thought that I couldn't become more closer than I thought I already was. But this card game brought a whole new level of connection between all of us. At the end of it, I remember the wind blew the cards off the table, and we all burst out laughing, trying to catch them before they fell off the roof.
One challenge that I faced is in our school, the New Year's festival. Our drama class performance La Vie Bolin, which is a song from the musical Wind. We didn't decide whether to perform or not because our school teacher, the leaders, knew the content of the song and said that there were many sensitive topics in the song. His original words were, "If there is anything touching my bottom line, I will stop your performance immediately." I told them that we would talk about LGBTQ, but he even said it's apparently not something that high school students can discuss. So we were all very disappointed and angry. Like, we just wanted to discuss the small groups and this existing social phenomenon. Later, many students knew about it, and they said that they would support us and help us. Finally, in order not to conceal the performance, we coded some Chinese subtitles, and our song is performed in English, but the lyrics in our big screen are in Chinese and English. Later on, during our performance, when sensitive words appear on the big screen, bisexuals, transsexuals, the students in the audience just screamed and clapped for us.
This was like around last year. I think it was during February, during Chinese New Year time, after a really stressful period, because there were like a lot of school stuff to get through, but now in our holiday it was a pretty average holiday, but like this pandemic, and I had this experience that I really wanted to share about. It was like a cold and windy night. I vividly remember that it was like about like 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and it was really dark, and like you could only see the streets light. And when I would step outside, and it was during this time where I was able to just reflect, relax, and look at what really happened during this past year. And it made me realize just how privileged I am, and how privileged I was to go to this prestigious school, and how I had such loving parents and friends.
So, it's the 19th of February, and it's my granddad's birthday, and I'm in England, at Liverpool, at St. Albans Docks, because it's a holiday, and I went to go home and see my family. And because it was my granddad's birthday, we're gonna do something special. So we got these tickets to go on the HMS Prince of Wales. I forgot the Prince of Wales' name, but that doesn't matter. So we had to go through in this line for ages just to get to the security place where we had to drop off our bags and get scanned by these airport scanners. So once that was over, which took like an hour, we had to line up again on these metal steps, which were kind of like scaffolding, going up to the ship. It started to snow, and I was scared that if we slip, well, mainly me, if I slip, I'd fall into the icy waters below and be crushed by the ship and the docks, which wasn't a very comforting thought. But eventually we got onto the ship, and there were loads of like things on display like that the Navy used, like weather balloons, helicopters, jeeps, and it was just awesome. I was just thinking why it's so important to me, because this is the last time I saw my family before lockdown, and I haven't seen them since, but it will soon.
So it's around March, February. I can't really tell. The time since COVID has started has just been lost to me. But it's around that time. It was 2 months. A lot of things had happened. We had a play that got cancelled. I went to New York, which is a big mistake in retrospect. But I did it. And well, I did that new play, it's called Dark Road, and there was one before that, it's called Legally Blonde, and by doing both of those, I made friends with a gentleman who was a senior. He has probably kept me through this pandemic. See, shortly during those 2 months, I'd had received text messages for him to join his little community, his little server on Discord, and to play Smash Brothers with him and his friends. And it'll be a whole year, but in March, since I joined, it's almost been that amount of time now, but I don't know if I would be in the same mental state I am without him or my other friends. We've just been supporting each other through this whole thing, mostly by staying in touch through our shared love for video games, yeah.
It was March, probably the 5th, and I was studying math in my bedroom, and I was in the dark because I had this huge obsession with candles in that moment. So I was surrounded by candles in the dark. And suddenly, this blue flash of light almost blinds me. And, well, I was astonished because, well, it came out of nowhere. So I thought it was thunder. And I tell my mum about this thunder, because I was really amazed by it. I've never seen something like this. So powerful, yeah, powerful. So she runs to my bedroom, and well, we see that there's no storm, just an ambulance parked in front of our door. I remember feeling
powerless. I kept selfishly repeating to myself, please don't ring to our door, please don't ring to our door. There were these two people dressed like astronauts that entered our house, and I was really afraid they were going to knock to our apartment, but of course they didn't. But 30 minutes later, they came out with our neighbors, and well, I knew there was COVID around, but I didn't think it was this close.
I had a certain feeling around the end of March, a feeling that made me lose myself and my own thoughts. I was sitting on the beach, looking out into the sea, and I was of course grateful for being there at that moment, but I miss my friends. That present of laughter, tranquility, and a time of joy. I thought about what I would be doing at this Friday night at that very moment if I was with my friends. And of course, it would be a classic, ordering food and watching How I Met Your Mother, and laughing at a stupid discussion. What a bad times when you have a slight fallout with your friends, but that was something you can laugh about. Or how I miss my school. I wonder what it was like with no one around, and how the teachers were. Sitting there and watching the sunset, thinking too much about how I missed my life before the quarantine. And it made me feel the sudden loss, but then a sudden glee. From that day on, missing the people and the things I missed, I realized to live every moment like it might be my last.
It was April the 1st that day, and I was walking on the street. It was the first time I'd been out of the house since 3 months of lockdown, and I was really depressed about this whole situation because I had been preparing for critically important exams since last September, and suddenly everything was disrupted by the pandemic. And of course, being stuck at home for nearly 3 months was far from a pleasant experience. So you can understand how refreshing it was just to hang around a bit and soak up the time, admiring my surroundings. As I remember, the sky was blue and the sunshine was not so dazzling, but the wind was soft. Then I noticed half a dozen sanitation workers who were literally skipping on the street. And what amazed me the most is that they even brought a loudspeaker with them to play some pop songs, and they just looked so cheerful, laughing out loud and chatting with each other. And I understood why. There were a few people on the street at that time, so they were like, the kings of the street. I had been reading a lot of news about the difficulties that the sanitation workers were faced with because, well, for example, some of them didn't have enough money to buy the masks or just the daily necessities, but their positive attitudes really inspired me.
I remember a very special memory. Around April time, during the first lockdown in the UK, I was sat in my front garden where my dad had hung out a hammock of those things Dad did for children but hardly get used. But Dad sometimes sends them out for 2 or 3 weeks in constant use. Me and my sister have to fight it usually, but today I had it. And I'm just lying down in the hammock with a pillow props against my head. And the sun's coming through the leaves of the trees. It is beautifully creates sort of a dappled pattern. It's sunny. And next to me, I have a repurposed step ladders, my dad's step ladders, but I'm using it as a table for my cup of tea. It's jasmine green tea, I think. I was going to a jasmine phase. Lockdown gave me many phases of teas. I'm carrying on a grey. And next to my tea was a book that I was reading, and my laptop was open. I think I was also trying to write a book, but there was also one of those lockdown achievements, but never got achieved. I think in the distance I could hear a bird pigeon, kind of that slow and soft purr almost, very rhythmic. I remember it because it is so quintessentially British, and I was trying to make the rhythm of a song in my brain because it is so constantly that. It is kind of warm actually, surprisingly warm for British April. It was a lovely moment, very peaceful compared to what else things is going on.
April 16th in 2020, I was sitting in my room. I had just finished online school and I was just not feeling well. I was literally sitting on my bed. The room was dark. I had a bed of LED lights on and my phone was lying next to me and messages were buzzing. And then I picked up my phone, I looked at the messages, and I just started crying. I started crying really bad, and I didn't even know what was going on until my sister knocks on the door. She comes in, and she doesn't even ask what's going on. She just comes in and gives me a big hug. But at this moment was one of the moments where I felt really disconnected, but also connected to the world at the same time.
During quarantine, me and my family developed sort of a rhythm. Come lunchtime, we'd all reconvene in the kitchen. We'd all work together to put lunch on the table. It was always either sandwiches or salad because we developed a taste for a simple lunch, and we'd always sit outside because this was the end of quarantine, so April, May, and there was always beautiful weather outside, really warm. We'd always just sit outside and have our lunch, and we'd just take a moment to spend time together and really talk about whatever we wanted. And it was so nice because normally during life I always feel as if we're like ships passing each other in the night because, each of us, we lead our own lives. We have our own friends, our own things to do, But in quarantine there's none of that. So really only had each other. And I felt as though I was getting to know my family for the first time properly, because for the first time I felt like they weren't just side characters in the life that I was leading, but main characters, the people I was relying on, the only people I could see and talk to. It was really incredible to rediscover a connection, the people who had always been there for me, but were all sort of forgotten to appreciate.
I think it was April, or maybe May. I just remember it was warm, hot in fact for England. And we used to spend a lot of time in our very long, narrow garden. It was locked down and, well, the garden became everything really. The neighbours suddenly became part of our lives. Not directly, not, hi, how are you, 24/7, but they were there all day, every day, just on the other side of the hedge. They seemed to have endless birthdays at that point. Sam next door, as we called him, because we've also got a cousin called Sam. He had his 7th birthday in lockdown. They started with happy birthday wafting in from their garden through my bedroom window at 8 a.m. Sam got a trampoline with a red balloon tied to it. I could see the red balloon bobbing above our hedge, and I could hear the trampoline. Oh, I could hear it. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Oh, it got on my nerves. I swear they didn't stop bouncing for 12 hours. Sam went through a steep learning curve. He learned that whilst it was his birthday present, his brother and sister had an equal claim on it. Max, the eldest, seemed to make it his territory, and Sophie, the 3-year-old, learned not to leave Mr. Rabbit unattended. I could hear the drama as Max took Mr. Rabbit and tied him on the trampoline, just out of her reach. I'm guessing Mr. Rabbit was quite happy about that, though. Anyway, I think the point is that might have been a big hedge in the way. But I learned a lot about them that, one never would have known if it wasn't for lockdown.
It was the 7th of June. My mom and her friends decided to get up together to go for a walk in Senior up the mountains. They were bringing their children, so me and my brother were forced to come along. At the start, I didn't want to go. I'm not known to walk, so yeah, once we came there, first thing I did was take out my phone and just start to listen to music. And I did that for 1/3 of the walk, which in all honesty I quite regret. I remember the part where we were halfway up the place we wanted to go, and my parents were just talking with their friends, and the children and I were just, well, it was me and my brother and the children. We were just playing around with rocks. It was really fun. It was really, really fun, I have to say. We were just jumping around, and I actually left my phone and headphones with my dad, so I had all this nature around me, and so it was just so different to what we have at home. And I just thought to myself, wow, I love this.
On the 22nd of June, 4 or 5 days till I started summer holidays, and it was just after lockdown had finished, me and a couple of my friends went on the boat. The boat was in harbor though, it wasn't out in sea, so it was pretty empty. All you could hear were the waves crashing against the walls of the boat, and the boats were swaying one side to the other, and there were seagulls. And it was pretty empty, there weren't that many people there. I think I saw 10 of them that day, and of course my friends. But on the picture, it was only me and my other friends. And we were smiling, and I think I told a joke, but I can't remember the joke I told, but our faces, the smiles, They were so big, and I could say it was a smile, but really we were just laughing. And we just came out of lockdown, and we all forgotten what it was like to be with each other. And we were jumping in and out of the harbor, and on that day, all our worries have been let go.
It was a summer night. It was actually the 8th of July, and I remember this because it was my birthday, and it was nighttime, and it was been around 8 o'clock because we had just had dinner, and we were playing around in the garden, my friends and I, and we had this sticks that when you break them, they glow in the dark, and we were playing to hide the sticks and then finding them. And I remember the sky was so beautiful. You could see all the stars, and the moon was so bright, and we were just having so much fun. My friends had come to a tiny birthday party I had, and I was just so happy to have them there, because ever since I was little, my parents would sign me up for summer camps, and obviously they were during the summer, so every year for the day of my birthday I was in a summer camp. So I never really got to see my family or my friends for my actual birthday. So having my friends there for the date of my birthday, like the real date of my birthday, is the best night ever.
Last summer, in about June, July, I said about July 10th, we went on vacation like we usually do. We went to Greece like we usually do. And instead of taking a plane this time, we decided we have to drive a car because safety reason, we don't want to wear a mask like for autumn on the flight, and it was always about a safety concern with so many people in the closed space in the flight. So we decided to drive a car, and at first I thought it's so boring, we have to drive for an hour with a car, but then I realized it was actually a lot of fun. I was grateful for the corona. I never thought I'd say this, but I was actually grateful for corona. I got to be the DJ, and we listened to music a lot, like oldies, things that my parents listened to.
Everything has changed, and I remember how it used to be. There's one night in particular, it was 20th of July 2019. The night was just dark and clear and beautiful. The lights from the sky just glistening on the sea, and the street lights just glowing how they usually glow. I was walking along the seaside with my best friend because it was his birthday, and I had to help set up his birthday party. And once we got to the location, we just got everything set up. Everything was great. Everyone gradually came in, and we just partied and vibed to the music we loved, and met new people, met old friends, and it just felt like we didn't care about what was exterior to the party itself. It all used to be so free. It felt like we had nothing to look out for. Now we follow protocol and have to ensure that we follow every single new rule to the book. I miss going out without having to be cautious of what I wear and the amount of people I'm going out with, or whether I just let out a small sneeze in public. this new normal is, in comparison to the old normal, is just so much more confined. I feel like everyone around me and society in general are just so forced into these new rules that it becomes this ritual where people are forced to wear masks and check their temperatures and be cautious of what they do around people. My mindset back then, where everything was free, in comparison to now, is just so different. Everyone's routines changed. Everyone has to make sure that everything is so in line. There's no leeway to life, and I think that will not change for a while.
Maybe June, maybe July, August. I'm not really sure. Really, really hot. It's so hot. My skin's just burning, and I have all this sunscreen on. I'm with my friend at her house. We're kind of lying down on this wooden dock she has, floating on the pond she lives by. She doesn't have any sunscreen on at all. She's so tan, and I'm so pale. But we have a feud about sunscreen. And of course it's still ongoing. I have yet to win, but we're not really talking about much. Just random stuff that probably only we would find funny in only that minute of time. But that's just how it's always been with us. And it was really comforting because she's one of my closest friends, and I'm not really seeing anyone else. I'm mostly by myself, but sometimes I can go over to her house and we just lie on her dock, and maybe we can go in the water sometimes if it's too hot. And it's just like a little pocket of time where nothing else really matters. Nothing else has to matter. Nothing else has to be so drastically different. The pandemic. I know I don't hang out much with people outside of school anyways, but after the pandemic hit in March, I really didn't see anyone but her. I don't think she knows how important those summer months were to me. Now that we're back in school, it's a bit easier, but yeah, it was just so important to me, and I'm very grateful that I had that.
So it's August 2020, and the restrictions aren't too bad at that time, so me and my family and my cousins and my aunts, and so there's a lot of us, we'd all gone camping in Dobsha, and we haven't seen each other in absolutely ages. Seemed like a big family reunion, and it was just like talking about everything, and not much happened, of course, because of the lockdowns. And it was just this one evening, and it was golden hour. The sun was setting, and I could smell what we were having for dinner, and it smelled like sausages and beans. And I was lying on the grass looking at the sky, and I saw my cousin next to me, and it was like coronavirus wasn't even happening. It was just like I completely let go of my worries and everything. And I felt like I discovered that this is what life could be like, and this is how amazing life could feel like, and this is how amazing it is. And it was completely like I haven't been so close to another person in ages. And I was just looking forward to dinner and worrying about, is it going to be windy in the nights? Is it going to keep me up instead of, is where I'm going to go illegal? Am I going to get fined? And so it was just completely perfect in every way.
So in Russia, it's not very traditional to not organize birthday parties or any kind of parties, anything, inviting guests and stuff, not doing that in advance. So whenever you want to organize some kind of event, you always you always plan everything in advance. You always invite everyone in advance. And this summer, it was actually my friend's 18th birthday, and I spoke to his parents, and we thought it would be very interesting to do, and not really usual to organize a surprise party, basically. So we decided we're gonna find a good place, and we would tell all of our friends, like only the closest ones, that we would be organizing the party. But because of COVID, we couldn't invite that many people, as we would normally do. But we didn't tell the birthday boy. When we came to the place actually, in the evening, he honestly had no idea what was going on. Like, as we started walking in, there was like this Russian happy birthday song, which is very popular. And when I looked at everyone, I got this mixed feeling. Because everyone was wearing masks, and there wasn't that many people as I was used to.
It was Wednesday the 12th of August, 2020. And we were in my grandparents' garden. It was around midday and very, very hot. The sky was deep blue and there wasn't a cloud in sight. I was with my mom and my 2 sisters, and Grandma was sitting behind a glass door at the back of the kitchen to protect her. Earlier in the summer, we had started raising butterflies. We watched little caterpillars grow into beautiful butterflies, and 4 days after they emerged from their chrysalis, we released them into our garden. During lockdown, we had planted a flower garden as a family, and we hoped that this would encourage our butterflies to stay close by, so that we could spot them sometimes and enjoy them.
We raised butterflies throughout the summer, and by the time our 3rd kaleidoscope of butterflies were ready to be released, Grandma had just come home from hospital, but was still very ill, so we decided to release them in her garden. Grandma loved gardening, and we hoped that seeing the butterflies in her garden would allow her to enjoy it again, now that she was no longer well enough to go outside. We crouched on the patio by the door, so that she could see them be released through the glass, and we unzipped the net that they were living in, and watched as they flew away towards the flowers. The butterflies were kept inside for a long time, but were eventually freed like we will be one day, and they gave us hope of that. Later in the year, Grandma had to return to hospital, and she caught COVID-19 while she was there and died of it. Some people are reminded of their loved ones whenever they see a butterfly, and butterflies remind me of Grandma.
Like many people and students, virtual learning for me started in March. A few weeks before that, I was actually quite curious on how virtual learning would work. With curiosity comes worry, and I was quite worried as well. And I was worried because I was wondering what would happen and how virtual learning would be like, and if it would be any different from face-to-face learning. So, by the end of virtual learning, I was actually quite happy with virtual learning. I could say I liked virtual learning, and I was used to it as a routine. And the change happened, I think it really happened because I was just motivated, so then I could just try my best, because it's only going to happen once in my life. To be honest, I was even slightly, I wouldn't say disappointed, but I was slightly missing virtual learning. Only a bit, but I was just missing the feeling of just having not to go to school, zooming from home, waking up late.
I went to a cafe last weekend on a shiny morning. Actually, I haven't been there in quite a while since COVID-19 broke out. But now the situation is getting better and better, I could finally go out for just a cup of coffee. It seems that things never change here, just the same as what it used to be. Except the flower beside the window. In my memory, it used to be bright and lively. It used to greet me when I took my seat beside the window. But now, the leaves of it seem dark and dirty. It is lifeless. And it's dying, I realised suddenly. Something had already changed in those few months. And that made me sad.
Okay, so it's October, late October, and it's lunchtime. Oh, and this is in the school holidays, by the way. And it was my grandma's 80th birthday. Well, we'd hoped to have a big celebration, of course, but like everything else, it got canceled. So we decided to have we had our own mini celebratory meal, just me and my brother and our parents. And we were in the kitchen, gathered around the table, these party food in front of us. And I think, I'm trying to remember. We had salmon, sandwiches, scones, and cake. Oh, and fudge, because I made some fudge to send to my grandma as a present. And my dad had to leave early because he had work to do. And Mom insisted that she take a photo to send to grandma. So me and my brother were sat there displaying these mandatory awkward smiles, and it felt pretty ridiculous, but we knew it mean a lot to our grandma, so we did it anyway. And I guess it felt sort of a sense of hopefulness, because despite all the sadness and the fear all around us, we had really made an effort, and we created I guess we created our own little pocket of happiness there.
Stuck at home again, I'm not with my friends, I just wanna get out. Cause sometimes in this house it tends to go down south. I'm waiting for the open, missing all the lights and going downtown, missing all of the signs, missing all the nights I should have right now, but I can't deny I'm going crazy inside my mind, and sometimes I talk to myself just to pass the time. And they said it would be a few weeks, now it's been a year, and I'm laying here.
Back in November of 2020, I completed a 100-mile bike ride, and it took just about over 7 hours to complete, and it took a long time for me to accomplish. It took a little over a year to be able to do, and I had only been cycling for about a year, so it started as kind of a coping mechanism for depression and became very therapeutic for me. When I completed that ride, it kind of went from a coping mechanism to something I felt really passionate about again, which I hadn't felt in a really, really long time. And I just continue to be thankful that I'm in a much, much better place than I was a couple of months ago, less than a year ago.
It was the 21st of November, 2020. I had lost my grandfather from my mom's side from a heart attack. He had COVID, and his previous illnesses had caused him to suffer a terrible heart attack. I still can't believe he's gone. I remember all of the moments we had shared in 2020 when I was stuck in India. We would order in, we would watch our favorite movies, our favorite shows. We would pretend to make videos on my laptop and would just sing all day long. He was a big fan of singing, and I remember just singing his favorite song in front of him, and I'd never seen him cry in his life, but he'd cried, and he told me that I hope you become whatever you want to become, and I hope that I'm there when you achieve your greatest accomplishment. And I'm so sad that he won't be here see my future to be there with me in my graduation or any future event, and I feel so grateful they got these months to spend with him, because there's so many people in this world that are away from their family and don't get to spend time with their loved ones. And I was in complete denial when I found out about his death. I remember in the train when going to school, I just broke down in front of my friends and I cried. I just couldn't hold myself together. I just let go of all the emotions I had: anger, frustration, helplessness. And it felt good to release all of these emotions and to have someone to talk to. And I hope wherever he is happy and healthy and he's proud of me.
It's November 17th, and I'm riding my bike to this area called Tanya Tuk from my house. It's around 6 or 7 o'clock, so the sun's going down, and I've reached the reservoir, this Tanya Tuk area. It's a very green, small area with a few shops and a few houses and little pop-up shops, and also a little boating area. Nothing fancy, it's not the city, it's quite out of the way, but it's a nice area to hang out. I ride my bike to the reservoir and I sit down on this little bench. Well, it's not really a bench, it's more, works a bench, looks like a bench, and it sits there, it's more of a rock. So I sit on this rock and I look up at the sun going down, and it's really pretty. The thing is, this Tanya Tuk area has changed a lot for me over the past year. Not because the area's changed, but I've gone there a lot more. Initially at the start of the year, when we were to go wherever we wanted, I never really went to Tanya Tuk. Now that I'm confined to where I can go and I can't go out too much because of COVID, I've ended up going to this Tanya Tuk area a lot more. Before, I didn't really know where anything was. I only knew a few shops, but I knew I had to get to the reservoir vaguely. I just found my way there and back. But now I know Tanya Tuk like the back of my hand. You know, I know all the good views, the good bike tracks, and the space for me to relax. It's almost like a second home for me.
So I can remember that maybe December 17th is our Christmas party, and our drama club performed Dear Theodosia and Take a Break from Hamilton. Right, Hamilton. And if for a prize for seniors in our club, because they're busy at their application, and we want them to relax in this performance. So we performed that on Christmas party. I think it is wonderful. Wow. I just think that, I've never felt so moved by the performance. I've never imagined that, because from an age, I was considered as not good at singing or dancing, but on the stage, in the drama club, I can feel that I was in a family that everyone loves musicals, loves drama, and our performance can move somebody. They will cry, they will love. They're for us. I think this is amazing.
So, in about December 2020, I discovered new friendships. It all started when my best friend introduced me to this group of friends over the phone. I think in about October 22, I knew this happened. Going back to the new friends, I've never seen them, only I think their Instagrams, profiles and posts. And I knew if my best friend liked them, and I would like them too, because we like the same type of people. We met up in December after I returned back from school. It was a really cold afternoon. I guess it was the early evening, around 5 p.m, 6 p.m. And we hadn't seen each other for 4 months. And because COVID restrictions had loosened up, I was really looking forward for the two of us to catch up. And we sat down and we started talking and we had a really good time. Then all of a sudden, the group of girls walk in. They were all smiling. And I'm really grateful to my best friend for introducing me to these group of girls, because I've discovered my circle, my new friends. I just feel like this is the friendship that will last my whole life. And to add up, I feel like it was a great end to 2020.
The whole image is blurry, and as I spin, the world seems blurry too. And I think that's been most of my experience during lockdown. It's just few clear events between the long intervals, which is just blurriness. I'm on the field. It's almost curfew. And it's New Year's Eve. And it's the first time I'm spending New Year's Eve with a friend instead of my parents. And they're at home. And I'm out here with my friend in the field and we're having a photo session. And I'm just spinning, twirling around with my hands up in the air, and I'm looking back behind myself, and in this moment I felt a lot of freedom. I felt really carefree. I just look at this picture and I think about how the world outside suddenly became very quiet during lockdown. I knew there were protests happening. Even my home country, there was a lot of turmoil, but we only saw that in the news. And my understanding of the world changed completely. It all moved to the internet mostly, and in the real world there was just me and my parents.
So it was the beginning of lockdown and everyone was pretty much at home, and I think for me this was the big part of changed who I was mentally, and so being alone and not having friends or not having the things that are always normal in your life kind of had me take more time to forget who I was, and that took a lot of breakdowns and it was quite stressful, especially being, locked down in a room by yourself. And I think it's changed for everyone else as well, because you don't want to be selfish to the people who are also going through worse. So it took me time to put myself in perspective of what people are going through, as well as realising what I'd been going through. And I kind of hid a lot of things away just because of being surrounded by things that are normal, and I didn't want to, have everyone see me differently. So it kind of made me realise how I could, more or less was broken in many places, to put myself first. So I came for me. That was one of my biggest takeaways.
I think
as cliche as that saying goes of everything happens for a reason, that has really stuck with me since last October, maybe early November. But I was just going through a really stressful situation where to me it just felt like the end of the world, and it brought up a lot of self-doubt and a lot of what ifs, and no one likes a lot of what ifs. But I worked through it either with people or just gaining really good advice, and it just took that really tough situation for me to remember that I'm not the only one going through this, and I'm probably not the only one that's going through it during COVID. As stressful as that makes it even more, you can't keep thinking that it's your fault when things go wrong in your life. Sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it's also just the way it is, and no one has the answers of why it's happening to you. I'm glad that I have this, I think, more positive and just a better approach to things in general happening and coming my way. I think it's coming at a good time when, when I'm leaving home and I'm leaving people I know and going into this new culture. So I am really grateful for that. It took a tough situation for me to get to where I am now.
How do you capture a year? How do you capture those moments in time? What gives you reasons to cheer? Are the darker times when you pretend